Welcome back to First Year in Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin, and today I am bringing you a very close friend, but not only a close friend, somebody who is an absolute stud, who has been able to crush it in medical device sales and been able to climb her ranks from an associate all the way to the VP of sales. She has worked for some of the largest medical device companies in the world, and she runs an organization and helps people have success in medical device sales inside her own organization. And so today I get to bring you all a very close friend of Sarah Stengel, who has been in medical device sales for 7 years, has climbed the ranks extremely fast, and has been able to absolutely crush it in the industry. But even more important, just an amazing human being. She is somebody who worked with me when I was first trying to break into medical device sales, literally spent time with me, and I owe a lot of my success of breaking into medical device sales to Miss Sarah. So Sarah, welcome to New to Medical Device Sales and First Year In.
Thanks for having me.
It is such a pleasure to have you. And we were just talking on the roof how crazy it is to think about 6 years ago. And for me, it was really 4 years ago that I met you when I was trying to break into medical device sales, and where we were both at in life. In our careers and to where life is today. And so it's really cool and a really special moment just to be able to sit here with you and kind of go over reflecting on that, but also know that you're going to be able to help a lot of people because you helped me a lot. And so it's just a special moment to have you here today and be able to share your knowledge and your expertise with our people.
I appreciate it. I actually got chills when you were just saying that. It's so crazy to see how this is kind of like come full circle.
Yeah, it truly is. And like what we always tell you guys is like your relationships matter and your network matters. And like if you guys actually go back, I think maybe the third episode I ever posted was an episode with you when we filmed one when you guys were doing your own podcast. And now to where it's at, where our podcast has gone and grown and where you're at, it truly is amazing of the network, but the relationships and been able to grow with each other and to watch your success. Because when I first met you, you had just been at one company and then you were moving into the next one to see where you're at now, VP of sales, absolutely crushing it. It's so cool to watch.
Well, I can say the same about you, right? I mean, you have to support and build each other up. So while I appreciate the positivity and the accolades, like just watching what you did, right? Going from a fitness instructor, just having this fire passion. You just knew what you wanted so bad and nothing was going to stop you from doing it, right? It was easy to help you, right? Because you were so coachable and took it all in and broke into a territory. Man. Like who does that? Who does that? So, I mean, it's awesome to see you, and you know, you've always been about giving back and helping other people. And it's one of the reasons I think why we connect so well.
Yeah.
So kind of watching your success almost from, you know, the outside and from afar, I'm super proud of you. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It means a lot. And that's not just coming from anyone. So that's a VP of sales. Everyone said they're proud of me. But no, I want to take some time to just really get to know who you are and let the listeners get to know about kind of your experience. So can you just give a quick little summary about who you are and like what got you even interested in med device sales before you got to where you're at today?
It's just kind of crazy. Everything seems to happen for a reason, right? Yeah. So I studied kinesiology in college, broke off from that, actually worked in the tourism space. Didn't make any sense. But, you know, I kind of knew that I always wanted to, actually, no, I'll tell you what happened. So I was in a class at ASU and they had a physical therapist from AT Still come in to talk about physical therapy. And I was kind of leaning towards like occupational therapy or like being an optometrist for little kids with the cute little glasses. I shit you not, the physical therapist said to me, or not to me, but like to the class, if you're not 110% in to being a physical therapist and you know that that's what you want to do, don't do it. Because the student loans you're going to have to pay, you know, they make $80,000 a year. Like that's a pretty successful physical therapist. He's like, I'm still paying back my student loans, and he'd been a physical therapist for 5-6 years. And I kind of remember sinking back into my chair going, I need to really kind of take another look at this. That doesn't sound fun to me. Right? Like, I don't come from money. I don't come from any of that, right? And the thought of having to pay back those loans and owing somebody money when I'm $80,000 a year is great, right? It's a stable income,
yep,
right? You know, you're above, you know, where most Americans are at.
Yep.
But having to pay that back and have those loans over my head, I'm like, this just isn't for me.
Well, you're actually like, when you add up the loans, you're worse than the average American, right? Because it's like the average American makes about $55,000 a year.
Right.
You make 80, but if you're paying over 30, 40,000 in loans a year,
it's insane.
And but let's say you pay the minimum and you did 10 or 15, but now you're doing that for 20 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I totally understand.
I'll skip the unimportant part, but I was working as a business analyst, and I had met somebody who's in medical device sales and, you know, kind of understood and saw, you know, what he was doing on a day-to-day basis. You know, oh, I'm in the OR with surgeons. Holy crap, that's so cool, right? You know, you're like, wow, I like anatomy and physiology. I like helping people. I like, you know, trying to rise to the occasion and being a resource for surgeons. Like, this might be something I'm kind of interested in.
Yep.
And so I didn't even know what medical device sales was before that. So I started to look into it and, you know, just started putting feelers out there, connected with recruiters, you know, got connected with a recruiter who ultimately was the recruiter that got me into the first round of interviews with Boston Scientific.
Love it.
I guess one piece of advice, just make sure you do your research.
Come on.
On who the company is.
Yep.
Even before that, my first conversation with the recruiter, they can't really tell you what the company is. They can give you a little bit about the position, but they don't actually tell you what the company is, or at least they didn't 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's the second interview, you know, he told me about the company and, are you aware of Boston Scientific? This is where I screwed up, right? Because it's like, this is one of the top 10 med device companies in the world.
Yep.
Right. But I knew the Medtronics, I knew the Strykers, but for whatever reason, my baseline, you know, research, I didn't know what Boston Scientific was.
Yep.
I played it off fine. But of course, after I hang up the phone, I'm Googling, what's Boston Scientific?
What do they even do?
Yeah. So, you know, it's like, you have to, it just kind of shows you have to have, really, you got to do your research even before you go into that next step of that second conversation with anybody you're talking about. Yep. Because you're going to look like an idiot. And, you know, you're already now one step behind.
Exactly.
So I guess, you know, I got that associate position with Boston Scientific. I think it was like 6 rounds of interviews. Yep. Started as an associate, you know, was there for 2 years. Kind of caught on early that being in the OR is kind of a double-edged sword. Yep. Right? Yep. It's, hey, you're going to perform and you have this quota to hit and you have to be in the OR to support these cases. But every year your quota increases. But now to hit your quota, you have to spend more time in the OR. Yep. So how are you supposed to go out and sell when you're in the OR all day long? Yep. It just doesn't make any sense. Yep. So that's when I kind of made the jump to Wright Medical. I found out early that they were hiring and they were building out a new team for biologics. Yep. I researched what biologics was, and then I kind of realized, you know, this is kind of the future, right? If I can get a baseline understanding of this now, it's going to help you in your career. It's going to help me in my career going forward.
Come on. Such a good way to look at it.
So that's where I got that position. Biologic specialist at Wright Medical. There was a Stryker acquisition. Yep. We were a newer division. Kind of saw the writing on the wall with that one. Yep. And in that time, I was introduced to some distributor owners in Arizona. Yep. Went to a meeting that wasn't even originally supposed to be about me. Yeah. Right? I was kind of going as a support and kind of vet through and get the vibe of who we were talking to, because I've heard terrible things about distributors.
Come on. If you don't know, you don't know.
Right. And so I'm like, well, if this is something you're considering doing, I'm going to go there and I'm going to apply some pressure. Yep. Turns out that's kind of what turned one of the owners on to me, is because I was applying a lot of pressure to him. And now, you know, we kind of joke about it. He's like, I really respected that you did that, right? You didn't just like take what I was saying with a grain of salt. You really challenged me on it.
Make sure they're experts and know what they're talking about. Yeah.
I mean, just see who they are as people too, right? So, you know, that was kind of the exit strategy. Yep. You know, I took a severance with Stryker. And, looking back, everything happens for a reason.
Preach.
But because of that non-compete and that severance, it kind of put me a couple steps back going into this distributorship and the opportunity that I could have had going into it. With distributorships, one of the pros about it is you're not pigeonholed to one thing.
Yeah, one product or one company normally.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what had happened was, I was around for a big shift in their business. And then ultimately, like, I'm not afraid to say it, the what we switched to and what our focus is now, I didn't have any existing relationships in.
Come on.
Right? We're calling on foot and ankle surgeons, podiatrists. I know urologists.
Yep.
And I know trauma surgeons.
Yep. Come
right.
on.
Like, or shoulder, right. I don't know podiatrists.
Yep.
And I was back to square one again. Right. And it's like, you have this success at, with
These
sales.
others. Yep.
And then you're going back to the hard cold calling, 15 touches a day.
Build the territory. You're back to zero.
With nothing to go off of.
Yep.
And the market was really unique. I was selling something that I was very confident in because of my experience in biologics at Wright Medical. So it wasn't that I didn't know the product. It's not that I didn't know how to sell or how to cold call or do anything like that. It was such a relationship focused sell, I guess, that I wasn't really having any success. And that was a really hard thing for me to swallow. Right. Yeah. I was lucky enough to where my owners of my distributorship were paying me like a $5,000 base salary. Which is enough to survive, right?
Well, per month. Yeah.
Per month. Per month. Thank you. Thank you. Shout out.
Like $5,000 a year. That's what all these people do. They're like, no way, I can't live off that. So no, $5,000
a month. Yeah. But you're now making $60,000 when you're used to making six figures.
Exactly.
Right? That's a harsh reality.
Exactly.
You feel like you're
just losing.
Terrible.
Yeah. You feel like you went back 10 steps and you're not good enough. And why did you even do, like, you start to question everything.
Dude, the mental toll that it took on me, the physical toll, right? It's like, you're doing everything you can. You're putting yourself and your mental and physical well-being on the back burner. Like, everything else is a priority because with distributorships, that's one of the benefits is it's eat what you kill.
Exactly.
But that's also one of the really harsh realities is it's you eat what you kill.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So with that, I honestly, it was just a huge blessing is, the two owners, they saw the value that I brought and they saw how hard I was working, even though I didn't really have anything to show for it. And what they did, and again, I'm so pro distributorship right now.
Yeah, come on. Yep.
And so I don't mean to keep harping on it.
No, I want you to because we don't talk enough about it. So we're gonna dive a lot more into it. So yes, please.
So they actually gave me an opportunity to shift. They're like, hey, you know what you're doing, right? And you know the product, you know how it works. You can speak to all of that. So what we want you to do is actually grow our national presence. I went from a sales rep to, national sales director, I think was the title. And it was just purely networking, right? LinkedIn, local reps, what to search, who to call.
Relationships,
all relationships and networking, right? I would have, 10 calls a day with these people. And I was selling really the therapy, selling the fact that they have these existing relationships and I'll teach you everything you need to know. Right. So it was very different, right? Yes. I'm not selling to a surgeon. I'm selling to distributors, sales reps,
things that are only going to actually help them even be more competitive and actually help them on the back end. You're selling a great product to help them with the value they're going to bring to a surgeon.
Right. That grew. And then, beginning of the year was promoted to VP of sales. We now have 2 direct reports, but, we took it from, what were we doing? I don't know, probably about 5 million a quarter in sales to now we're going to hit 17 million a year later, a quarter.
Woo! You guys have never even heard that much money in your life. That's in 3 months. Come on, Sarah.
So yeah, it was, the growth was really awesome. But it's all about the opportunity and the timing of things.
Come on. Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the story of how I got here?
Well, first off, love every second of it. And there's like 18 things we're going to dive in because like you said, there's so much value in what you just said. We could stop the podcast of just your story and people will be like, I learned so much, right, from what you already said. But I wanted to touch base just on a couple things that you said earlier. Is one reason you and I connected so well was I had a kinesiology degree. I was looking at OT school as well. And we had talked about this is like, I pay for everything myself, just like you did, right? And it's like, it didn't make sense for me to go to school for $100,000. It was $140K. I remember doing the math with you. It was like $140,000 for 2.5 years to go be a master's here at medical or one of the OT schools. I was only going to make 65 to 80,000, cap out at 100. I did the math. I was going to have to spend $1,500 a month if I wanted to pay it back in 10 years. I was going to be living off of under $15,000 a year while I was in school, right. So homeless. And then from there, I would actually go in. By the time I'm paying rent, loans, all the stuff back, I would be lucky if I had an extra $500 to my name. And I would have to do that till and I was thinking I was good at 25 to be an OT. I'm like, I would have to do that till I'm 35.
Right.
Okay, let me have you guys think about that. Another 6 years to where I'm at currently. And then from there, I would then just break even to be making 80 to 100K to then, oh, you want to buy a house? You want to buy a car? Even more debt.
Right.
And so it didn't make any sense. And so I just want to put that out there because I know a lot of listeners that we have are, I just talked to 2 kids today, going to go to med school. They don't want to go into 500 grand of debt. So it's like, you go that, we already have that section of, go be a resident and a doctor and surgeon.
I love doctors, right? They're brilliant, but it's funny. So one of my good friends' friends,
yep.
She's now starting residency as a podiatrist.
Yep.
And what's funny is, she would talk about, at dinners or whatever, she would discuss, I can't wait to, decide what reps and what products I'm going to use. And, I'm going to, quiz my reps and X, Y, and
blah,
Z,
blah,
and
blah.
I'm going to have so much power. Yeah. And I'm kind of like, honey, no disrespect to podiatrists, but like there's different, you've got MDs, you've got DOs, and then you've got DPMs, right? And it's this, I get it. You're a physician, you're brilliant and, you're skilled
yep.
and all this stuff, but you're not going to have the power that you think you have with everything that's changing yep. in the medical space.
Just bring up the laws.
Yep. Well, I mean, you can't use, if you want to use Smith and Nephew, but the hospital has a contract with Stryker, guess what? You're using Stryker.
Yeah, especially if you're brand new or if you're not bringing in millions of dollars,
right.
Good luck ever even being in the rooms to talk about it.
Your value doesn't carry,
yeah.
No offense.
Yeah.
So it's like there's just all these changes, and yep. It's just even. I wanted to shake her because I'm like, dude, like top of the class, brilliant. Yep. I'm like, dude, if that's what you wanted to go be a plastic surgeon, like go
somewhere where you can actually go and have that spot right. where you can make the money and do all
right. That. But it's just there's so many preconceived notions, and you don't know it until you're in it. I'm just a sales rep.
Yeah,
I'm not telling you as a DPM. Like what you're going to face.
Yeah.
But I can give you a little bit of insight, 6-7 years of insight that,
Yeah. Oh, I know, because this is the whole thing. You don't know what you don't know. And this is like, we have this talk. I had this talk with both people today. They decided not to go to med school. It's been super interesting. Now, we all have got the opportunity to meet some surgeons and doctors we absolutely love, and they love what they do.
Right.
But you want to know the ones that normally are those people is they've made the business out of it.
Yep.
Every other person is just a high paid employee. And this will make a lot of doctors and surgeons and people mad. And then they're going to bring out that I'm smarter than you. I put in more school and whatever it is.
Which you have.
And you have, right? But here's my whole whoop-de-doo. I went to less schooling, have not the debt, and I make more money. Oh, right. There is the check mark for it. But the reason I'm sitting here saying that to most of these people is they're very high paid employees. They have to work. They have to do this stuff. Then the ones who figure it out is they go make their own business. They go get their own clinics. But guess what? Now you have to do all the work until you hire more doctors. You have to take all the overhead. You got to get the right. clinic. You have to deal with the medical assistants. You have to deal with the nurses, the people that work for $19 an hour and turn over every 3 months because they don't like something, right? And then you get it. And then everyone, they miss this, is you're going to go deal with the patients. Everyone's like, oh, the patients are like, they're the best. You want to know what my number one conversation is with doctors that have to see people in the office? How mean human beings are.
It's getting worse.
It's getting worse because people have this, well, I can post on TikTok or I can post on Instagram and I can just rip these people, the people who are the Yelp reviewers. Oh, right. Good Lord, they have power, right? And so the reason I just touch on that for everyone who's thinking about this in the med school is like, go talk with many surgeons, because I can personally tell you, I used to train a lot of surgeons and lawyers. I always ask surgeons and lawyers, if you could redo your life, would you do it? I have yet to have one say yes.
And it all comes back to your motivation, right? If you're becoming a physician to make money and be a baller and, the houses and the cars and the financial freedom, like, you might want to
think of something. Well, they do it, but here's the whole thing. I see it all the time. $500,000 to $1 million in debt. Then they're like, it's always I deserve, or I want a Porsche, a Ferrari, whatever it is, because now I'm making 30 grand a month, 50 grand a month. I just came out, I'm making 250 my first year, all this stuff. Then they go buy a nice house and they talk about it. It's like, book for you all to read, Millionaire Next Door. Talks about wealth. You know who they talk about as some of the poorest people when it comes to wealth? Doctors. Every single time. Why? Because they go buy liabilities right away, and then they have all the debts and they have a bunch of liabilities. They don't actually have assets. And then they have a bunch of high spend, and then they go buy depreciating assets, aka cars, boats, stuff like that. And then it goes down. This has nothing to do about med device sales. We're just trying to give you stuff.
Like a little tangent. It's just,
Hey, but this is all about value, and we give it to you. But just so you know, like, that's what we talk about, is like when you think about med school doctors and stuff like that, it's who we work with, and there's a lot of amazing ones. But I can also sit here and tell you what she just said is you face it in the industry. Power, ego. Hey, this is what I want. It's the one place they have the power. And guess what? You get that with scrub techs. You get that with nurses, right? So it's your job as a rep to actually understand that. Because why we can talk to you guys and be so candid, you guys will be like, oh, if your doctor's doing all this stuff, like, we have these same conversations with the doctors. Now, I won't sit here and say to every doctor, like, probably should have done something different. Right. But the whole conversation is like what you said. What do they actually love? Because the ones that I actually see who love it, if it was just finances, it's the business portion that we talk about. But there are people who are like, my calling was to be a surgeon, which is incredible. It's that's when you make it, and the people who love it. Right. Because that's the ones when you're like at the conferences, you see the people that are on speaking. They're like, look what I did for this person. But what I watch a lot of times is you get the surgeons who came in because mommy and daddy told them to go be a surgeon or a doctor, or society tells us because you're going to be safe. And now they're stressed out because they're working all the time. They're not getting treated the best. They have all the stuff to pay back. And then it's...
Well, not even that too, right? It's like the reimbursement for a total hip or total knee, however many years ago, was... And don't quote me on this, right? But let's say it was like $5,000, right? Now these doctors are making $1,200 for a total knee, total hip. Like, they're getting raked over the coals with these procedures and reimbursement, and they're continuing to go down and down and down. It's now not as like financially secure being a surgeon as it was 10 years ago. Well, it's a completely different space.
You got to have your own insurance just in case anything goes wrong. There's all stuff. We are giving you guys.
Sorry.
You are welcome to every single person that is like, holy crap, I didn't even know about this. But to go back to the first point of like, yes, you could have gone to schooling. There's a lot of people who could go to schooling and do other stuff and pay a lot of money. But make sure, number one thing, do you love it? Right? Why are you doing it? Because that's why I decided not to go to OT school. And like you said, everything happens for a reason. Right. Went to fitness, went in here, and then got into med device sales, met you, went through this process. But what I wanted to talk to you about and what I want listeners to hear is, you brought up the recruiters. Now, we talk about a lot of times in our programs, we don't really work with recruiters because most recruiters have told, like we just had somebody tell one of our people to F off, who was a recruiter. He reached out to him, has no experience, but he came from the EMT space. The recruiter literally messaged back, F off. 3 weeks later, I got that person hired at $100,000. The reason I'm sitting here telling you is most of the time when I'm working with the recruiters, we don't work with a lot of traditional B2B people, right? Even we get people from ADP Enterprise who still come into our program. They still have troubles with recruiters. Why? The recruiters don't care about you. They're going to put 30 other people up. They're going to go and give you a piece of paper and say, study this. Hopefully it helps out. And then I always tell people, they're the middleman. And what I've always learned is if you guys have ever played telephone, it always comes back wrong. And my whole conversation is, if we're going to go talk to the hiring manager, go talk to the hiring manager. Don't hiring manager, I'm going to talk to the recruiter. The recruiter's going to talk to you. You talk to the recruiter. They talk. It just is an extra step. But for you, it worked out.
Well, I'll say, I got very lucky with that one recruiter. Mm-hmm. There were a handful of recruiters that told me, you have no sales experience. Go work at Xerox, ADP, go get some sales experience, and then,
reach out to me in 6 or 12 months.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And it's just, you also have to know your own value. And
come on.
You have to be realistic with it. I'm not talking this, everybody wants stuff handed to them.
Preach it.
Because I have a pulse and a heartbeat, like I deserve this. You don't deserve shit.
Come on.
Like you have to take a real honest, hard look in the mirror at yourself.
Yep.
And if you know your worth and you know the value you bring to the table, if anybody tells you no or you're not good enough, that's a mirror to themselves,
Yep.
right? It doesn't mean anything. But like you're going to face that with recruiters all day long.
Yep.
I did.
Yep.
I got extremely lucky. But also, I will say, I received coaching from who I was with at the time and their brother who was a VP it was beer sales. It wasn't even med device, but sales is sales.
Yep, come on.
Right? And they would spend time with me, prepping me for interviews, overcoming, objections, all this stuff. So it wasn't even the recruit. He was great and, provided some level of support, but you needed somebody else that, actually cares about you and wants to see you succeed.
Exactly.
And is going to tell you the harsh truths in order for you to get better.
And understands the process too, right? Because like a lot of that times, this is our whole conversation. A lot of times recruiters will tell you the wrong territory, tell you the wrong position.
Well, they've never done it before.
Bam, and they've never been, and that's my big thing is a lot of them have never been in the industry.
Right.
They don't know what it is. They've just been recruiting. Rick's been recruiting for 15 years.
Right.
But it's like, it's way different than do that than to actually talk to a surgeon.
Right.
And do that stuff. So that,
not to cut you off.
yeah.
It's like the marketing people. I know this will resonate with every salesperson, right? It's like the marketing people telling the salespeople how they have to go about and approach things. It's just that you don't get it because you're not in it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So just so you know, we have an episode dropping right before this. If you guys haven't watched it, go back. We had Heidi Spiegel, who is with Medtronic Global Marketing. And we talk about this for the fact that she was a sales rep for 7 years before she went into marketing. And that's what we talk. I said the exact same thing is it doesn't matter what organization you go into. Sales talks crap about marketing, marketing talks crap about sales because they don't understand each other. They're separate, but then they tell each other what each other need.
Right.
Compared to you go into it. But you're 100% right. And it's like being able to actually understand it. And so if you guys know what to do and what to expect, that's what we always just take pride on is I've done this with thousands of people. We know what to expect. And then we're actually caring about you and actually getting you because your background's different than Janny and whoever we're going to work with, right? So being able to overcome and know your worth. But the thing I love what you said right there, and we talk about it on the podcast a lot is, the amount of people, especially the ones who grind my gears the most is, I got a master's, so I deserve. I'm like, go take that master's and shove it. Let me tell you why. You don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Kinesiology. I did strength and conditioning. You know how many 24-year-olds came out with a master's in kinesiology and didn't know how to do a squat?
A
lot.
The majority of them.
Yeah, and they're all trying to teach people and they don't know how to have chest up, hips back, weight on the heels. What happens when you have somebody come with a broken leg? What are you going to do then? Where's your master's degree there? The reason I'm sitting here telling you, so many people will come in me, piece of paper, wave it in my face, and I'm like, put us on the starting line together. I will rip you apart for breakfast. So the reason I'm sitting here telling you, if you guys have a master's, doctorate, whatever it is, please just take that to, I'm not saying this to be mean. We say this to every single person that comes into my program. Take your resume, rip it up, and screw your past. Does not matter. I don't care if you're freaking Donald Trump. Put us on the starting line together, and here we go. Because what everybody will do is they'll take their past and be like, well, I've done this, I've done that.
It doesn't mean shit.
It's the whole thing with the master's. You have a master's. How does that make you a good medical device sales rep? Oh, you've never sold anything? So what does that do? But I expect to get $80,000 because I'm smarter than Johnny. Johnny, who has no degree and done door-to-door sales for the last 2 years, is way better at sales than you ever will be, even with your master's. And then they'll come in with their ego. No, and I'm like, please come in. I can't wait to watch you just get humbled. And I just put this out there for you guys. Again, I have nothing to ever win from this. It's just to help you. But why have we continued to be successful? I sit here and tell you, I'm in a very blessed spot to have multiple businesses. We do our stuff now. Bam. Why? Because rent is due every single day. I have employees the other day, I'm up at 5:30 in the morning and they're on East Coast time and I'm on meetings with them at 5:30 and then I'm sending them emails at 9 p.m. my time. Why do I do that? Because I'm the person who does everything and I'm still doing the work. It's due every single day. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter what success you have. Made a massive deal when I was at Innovis and largest deal in company's history. And we did all this stuff. What I do the very next day, woke up, acted like I was zero and had to go hit quota. But I watch all these people. Why are they never top performers? I had a little success. Or you went to Boston Sci, did well, and were able to go somewhere else. But then you're like, well, at Boston Sci, I did. Your next at bat's the only thing that matters. right? And that's what I just think about is Kobe Bryant, 1% better every single day. But I wanted to put that out there for the people to hear this is because we're talking to a top performer. You'll see the other top performers that we continue to have on the show and the program. And what is it every single time? They're always hungry. They're always getting better. Like one of the guys we have on our team right now, why I love him, such a top performer, does what he needs to, actually makes the deal, asking for feedback. Compared to all the other people, med device reps, you know how many people I watch get a doctor or get a sale and they're like, I must be Jesus. I must be God. I'm the greatest person who's ever walked on this planet, compared to every single high performer I've met. Like my day when I got that deal done, that PO came in. You know what? The first thing I thought in my head, I smiled, my CEO went crazy, and I was like, well, now the work begins.
Yeah. What's next?
That's number one. But number two, then it goes in reviews, and I went back, I had a review log of every single meeting we had and everything we have talked about. And I say, what can I do next time I have a massive deal in this to make it go faster?
Right.
Because that's where it actually comes in and it actually matters. So I just wanted to talk to you on that, because we're having reps that are not in the industry, or we have them in the industry listening to you. What has helped you be able to progress from broken as an associate sales rep to climb the ranks to where you're now a VP? Like, what has that been for you through that journey?
That's a loaded question.
And that's why we ask it, baby. Come on.
I think it comes down to just like my intangible qualities.
Yep. Come on.
You have to be very humble, right?
Yes.
You have to humble yourself.
Yep.
But it's this fine balance. And we were kind of talking about this a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
If you would have asked me this a year ago, I probably would have been like, everybody's on the same playing field.
Yep.
You know, everybody's here.
Yep.
There's no difference between men and women in med device,
Yep.
right? Everybody just needs to shut up and stop complaining.
Yep.
No, there's like an actual difference
Yep.
between being a male and a female in med device.
Yep.
There just is.
Yep.
I'm not saying that anybody should have any expectations because of one or the other. It's just it's different.
Yeah.
So for me, it was being humble enough to know that I still have a lot of growth to do.
Yep.
But it was also knowing my worth.
Come on.
Right. So at Boston Scientific, and I loved my whole team there.
Yep.
You know, from my manager to my coworkers, all gratitude. But what had happened was, I think it was probably 5 or 6 months into my first associate year, the senior associate moved to a different territory. New associate came in who hadn't been in med device either. Right? So you've got us two newbies, but I'm, 6 months in.
Yeah.
So procedures, I was starting to feel like I could go in
More
and
of a
hold
baseline.
my own.
Yeah.
Knew the territory really well, because what I did was I was blessed to have a top performing territory manager to learn from.
And those are not always out there, because there's only so many top performers to everybody out there. Because we hear this, I'm like, what do you get in? There's only top 10 performers.
Yeah.
You were blessed to have one of them that you got under.
I was blessed to have one of them.
Many of our people that we talk to, they get in and the person's 64.
Yeah.
And that's who they're learning from, right? So I'm blessed.
So
that's great.
It matters who you're learning from
Come
too.
on.
And that's something to consider, right? Don't just take a position because it's going to get you in the door.
Bam.
You have to think of that next step, right? Because you're green. You have to learn. You have to absorb. Just shut up and listen. Literally, right? The territory manager would go in. We'd go into a dinner meeting. We'd get there 10 minutes early. Hey, here's the goals. Here's what we're trying to get to. Here's where we're at.
Yes.
And he took the time to do that with me. And I could just watch him steer this conversation. And then at the end, we would break it all down, right? And he was I learned a lot, right? And that comes with, being more familiar with the product, the competition. It comes with experience. You get better at steering these conversations. But when you watch it happen, you just learn that much faster.
Yes. You just got paid to see how to be a top performer, and you're learning it in your first 6 months, and it took them years. That's what people miss on this whole mentorship. Everyone's like, oh, I don't want to pay any money, or I don't want to do anything. And it's like, would you pay any money to learn 5 years of experience in a week?
Right.
Because that's what you were doing.
Right.
You're literally watching a top performer, and guess what you're doing? Taking notes, learning, doing all this stuff. And crazy, guys, how it carried over to being VP of sales in under 7 years, where most people have taken 15, 20 years to get there.
Right.
Like,
I say that because there was an unfortunate situation, a little bit of like a Stark Law violation from the territory manager. He left. And now we're left with 2 associates and a regional manager covering, mind you, the average territory where I was at they had a $3 million quota.
Yep.
We had a $9 million quota. Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas.
Yep.
El Paso, Texas.
yeah.
Right? So you're flying, you're doing all this stuff, just trying to find the heads to cover cases was a lot. And what they decided to do was, we're managing this, right? So we're in April of this year, but we're going to ride this out for as long as we can before we hire a new territory manager.
Why would we pay any more extra money when we have 2 associates doing it for half the price and they're making us revenue?
Right. But there's also the expectation to hit your $9 million quota, and you're doing this with 2 associates. And I was the senior associate at that time, right? So I felt a sense of responsibility to like, well, and here's an opportunity, right? Am I ready for this? Probably not, but I'm going to fucking die trying to hit this quota. Baby. Right. We actually, Q4 is just madness, right? And being in Arizona, we have a lot of snowbirds. Everybody's hit their deductibles. Like that's when they're having procedures done. We had the cases going into the last 2 weeks of December. We had an unprecedented amount of cancellations. We were 99.9% to quota. We missed it by like, I think it was like $30,000, and the ASP for our procedures was like 11 grand.
You missed it by 3 cases.
Literally. And I was like, damn, we just did that. And then, now it's the start of a new year. Now, I know they're starting to consider hiring a territory manager. I remember having a conversation with my regional manager, and I love him. And I get it was a business decision, right? But I had a conversation with him. I'm like, look, this is what I just achieved. Leading this team. I want to throw my hat in the ring for this position. Not even like, I expect this, I deserve this. I just want a fighting opportunity.
Look at the work I just did.
Right.
Let me just have a chance to prove myself.
I thought I was at least owed an opportunity to interview. Do you know what I was told? We appreciate what you did, but you're still, just a year as an associate. This, we want somebody with more experience.
You guys know where I'm going with this, but I'm not even going to go off on it.
What they did was they brought in a territory manager who left the LA, went to a different industry, wasn't the best industry, and now he's trying to come back. And again, I adore him as a person.
Yeah, as a person. Yeah, it's nothing personal.
And after they hired him, my regional manager comes to me and says, hey, Sarah, this territory is so unique because there's a lot of bad blood against like urologists locally, bad like divorces and stuff like that. He goes, I'm going to need you to bring this guy up to speed on everything. And I'm just like, you have got to be effing kidding me. So now I'm a senior associate. I just did what I did that first year. I don't get an opportunity to interview. And now you're asking me to tell somebody how to do their job. Got it. Like, you made it perfectly clear. And at that point, I was like, I want to be valued.
Bam.
Right?
Come on.
And it's not like, oh, we were 50% to quota. It was, I have something to show for it.
Let me hit this real quick for everyone in the audience, because we have a lot of first year ins that are listening to this right there. That's not being ungrateful. That's knowing your value.
Right.
And this is my whole thing, is like, many of you guys will come in and be like, I know my value right away. But like, here's the whole thing is like, you proved it. And this is where I want you guys to always hear me, is because people will be like, oh, you got to go stay at a company for 20 years and all this stuff. And they're the same company that you just made them $9 million. They paid you guys associate fees. And then they don't even give you the opportunity.
Right.
You made them millions of profit. And then they're not even going to reimburse you guys. And then they don't even give you the opportunity. And now you're going to go train it.
Just an opportunity.
That's all it is. And so this is what I want everyone to hear in that story is, knowing your worth, but not going and being like whiny and be like, oh, Sarah saw that. And you're like, okay, this isn't the right spot for me anymore. Right. It's done it great and it's got me to where I'm at today. but I think I'm kind of capped where I'm at.
Yeah. And it's even during that process, right? Because there was still, I think I was there for probably almost another year.
Wow.
Working in tandem. And
Wow.
it was, I didn't complain. You know, it's, you just put team first.
Put your head
right?
down.
I'm still
Yep.
learning. What can I learn from this opportunity? And when something else came up that I thought was a better fit, I left, but I left in gratitude. I didn't stop working hard.
Come on.
I wasn't, causing issues. It was, we're just on different trajectories, and it's fine. But you have to know when to also walk away. I would have preferred to stay there.
Yeah, of course.
I loved my surgeons.
Yeah.
Was making a name for myself. I had relationships with, hospitals and things like that. And it was a lot more scary to go, I have to learn something brand new. I'm calling on a completely different specialty.
Yep.
Now I am starting from square one again. It was probably similar. Probably I made a little bit more money going in, right? Because you have a little bit more, once you have a track record of success, have a little bit more negotiating power.
Yep.
So it was, step up financially a little bit. But at that point, that was now more about principle for me than the financials.
Yep.
And that's ultimately why I left that position at Boston.
Well, that's huge. I just love that you went into so much depth for everybody, because there's so many associates listening to this, or first years, and they're like this is what I want everybody to hear, is one thing you said that really sticks out. It's always how you leave.
Yeah.
When I left Medtronic and all this stuff, I just want you guys all to know this is when I left, I said, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. Thank you for everything there is. And then you leave on good terms. Now, here's the whole thing. Let me just make this really dang clear. They're not going to like it, especially if you provide a lot of value to a company. If you're a top performer, been there multiple times. When you're a top performer, when I was the number one at Med, I was number 8 in the nation, but number 1 on my team, you think my manager was like, oh, Jacob, I'm so glad you're leaving us. I just made their job harder.
Yeah.
The reason I'm just saying that is you can never control how they're going to take it. You can just control how you take it and how you handle it. And so I just always you said it, but it's so great because, guys, I left the division and then when it made to deal with them at my next company, right? But it's all, if I would have been screw you all, flipping the birds and going, it doesn't happen, right? And so it's all about how you leave it. But also one thing that I always, I laughed about was when I got told they're oh, you're going to leave right now, the grass isn't always greener. I get told that all the time. Just so you know, you probably all hear it from your reps currently. The grass isn't always greener. Let me just say, when I left, it was pretty damn green.
Yeah.
I literally left, and within the first job in the first month, made way more off my base. Just my base.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity there was there. So the reason I'm just saying here is what you said. I think so many people relate, whether they're trying to break in medical device sales because they thought they were going to be an OT, they thought they were going to do this the rest of their life, or they're in med device sales, they've been there for a year or two, and now they have other people saying, this isn't smart, because I hear that every day. Well, stay here, make 108K, and you could be here in 12 years, you could make 400. Okay, great, John, and you hate your life. I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
It's knowing your value. It is scary, but I say this to every single person I work with. Courage isn't that you're not scared. Courage is taking the step even though you are scared.
Yeah.
And Alex Hormozy, one of the guys I listen to, great podcast. If you guys ever want entrepreneurship, listen to him. But he's every time I've left, I've added another zero to my income. And he's every time I've left and I've jumped and I went to where people told me not to go, but I knew it was right for me.
Right.
He's I've always added another zero. I can sit here and tell you, yes. And it's always scary. When I went from Iowa to here,
right.
Scary. When I went from personal training to med device sales, it was scary. I was supposed to be a fitness trainer. I was supposed to do all this stuff. And then I'm at Medtronic, the largest company in the world, to then, bam, that's scary. You're going to a startup now. Is that going to work? Now we're doing this full time. When I left, there's never the right time to leave.
Right. They'll try to keep you, scare tactics. The VP of the division called me. What do we need to do to get you to stay?
They do it and they dangle the carrot. The amount of times I just need to put this out there because that's such a good point. The amount of times I've had people do this and then they're like, oh, we're having a promotion come up in 3 or 6 more months.
Yeah.
Crazy how it's never that day.
Yeah.
But it's always stay
get
for
more
another.
Out of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's always guys, this is corporate America in every division, not just med device sales. Dangle the carrot. You top reps make $600,000. One person.
Right. Yes. So true.
And the others made 140K, right?
Yeah.
But everyone, 600 grand, this could be you, right? So it's just like the conversations with it, they always dangle the carrot, no matter what industry you're in. But it's like, jump. When you're ready to jump and you know it, like, let me just sit here. Everybody who's listening to this, you know in your deep down soul when it's ready to jump. And I'm a big Steve Harvey fan. I'm a big believer in God. I might cuss every once in a while. Me and Jesus still working on that one. But the reason I'm saying that is Steve Harvey talks about it. When you jump, you're going to say, here's my parachute, and it's not going to open the first one.
Yeah.
But by the second or the third one, right before you hit, it will open. It's about the trust. I always say this, like the universe is really good at trust and make sure and check you to make sure it's what you want. Went into this division, like when I left, got a job offer for twice the amount of money I was making. Go take that. Or am I going to stay true to why I left and why I'm doing what I'm doing?
Right.
Like the universe is always going to check you. So I just want to share that to somebody because you're so right. When you do that, VPs are going to call you managers. Two things. They either guilt you or they try to scare you. It's not greener. It's, oh, you're missing away from an awesome opportunity, all this stuff. But remember, these are the same people who just had you work, make millions off you, want to even give you an opportunity to do that. Like we all forget that. Then they're just come dangle the carrot. And then, oh, it's not we have a promotion for you today because you've crushed it. We appreciate you. We just don't want you to leave. So we have to go lose money because we actually know we're undervaluing you and paying you less than you should. We don't want you to leave because we're not going to find someone who can do what you're doing for the amount we pay.
Yeah. I mean, that's how corporate is.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's why I wanted to get out of corporate. But the funny thing is, and it matters, relationships are everything.
Yep.
Regardless.
Yep.
And I never want to burn a bridge down. And what's funny is that conversation was actually a very good conversation with that VP. And he told me, if things don't work out, like you've got a place here. And what's funny is I actually did some per diem work for them when I was, grinding my $5,000 a month,
a month, suckers.
I needed to try to make a little extra income and they let me keep my foot in the door and, it was working great. And then actually a territory manager spot did open up and I was one of their first calls.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's like, just because you're pissed and you feel screwed and you still need to, again, humble yourself.
Yep.
Don't burn that bridge. You never know where. I could go back to Boston Scientific this day if I wanted to.
You make a call. It's the relationships. It's all how you leave it. And like, guys, just so you know, when you hear me talking about corporate America, all this stuff, that's not me being like, oh, it all sucks and all this stuff. I'm just trying to help you uncover it all. Right. Because it's like, you got to learn, like we teach this in our program all the time. You got to learn how to play the game.
Right.
You want to know what every average rep never learns how to play? The game. But Jacob, why are you saying that? They drink the Kool-Aid. Oh my gosh.
Kool-Aid's no joke.
It's the best. It's their, like my favorite is like, I'm at a large company. It's the best. Oh, out of nowhere, Q4 just had travel bans. Why is that? Oh, they're now going to save more money, show the reports to their stockholders that they saved more money. Now you're not going to go crush your quota. Now they don't have to pay you out as much money. Now they have out of nowhere back orders that aren't getting shipped out to the new year. Like it's the game.
Right.
And then these same people are like, stay there for 15 years. And then guess what? New quarter comes. They just did layoffs.
Yep.
They'll drop you in a second. That's not saying this industry sucks. It's every industry.
Right.
But it's why people lose and they don't know how to play it, right? That's why I always laugh when like people will be like, the average rep makes 177 grand. And people are like, you can't do that. That's whatever. Did over 200 my first year in the industry. Well, you can't do that. Blah, blah, blah. You can if you learn to play the game.
Right.
And so that's why I sit here and tell you guys, it's not that I love this industry. It's why we do the podcast. It's why it's so much fun. But the conversation that you have to have is you have to understand the industry. Because you know who all talks crap and writes on my LinkedIn and writes all the messages? Everybody making under 200 grand. Just met someone they've been in for 6 years, never made more than 150K.
Damn.
Like, yeah, exactly. Just so you know, when you're a top
that's still really good, no, right?
It is. But like, just so you know, to every single person who gets triggered by that, like, oh, damn, I 150K, you all this, right? There's levels to this game. And like we talk about it on our podcast all the time. I'm going to say it one more time. Eagles don't fly with pigeons. I've said this on our podcast and it's good to say it one more time and people can feel how they want to feel. I'm not taking advice from people making 150K a year when I'm trying to make 150K a month.
Right.
There's levels.
Well, it's also too, it comes down to, it's your decision, right? You don't have to do what you don't want to do.
Yes.
Right. So if you're content being at the same place for 6 years, making 150K and you have work-life balance and you're coasting and that's what's important to you, great. Continue to do that. But don't don't talk on the person that
hungry.
doesn't align with the same thing you do.
Yeah, don't demonize it. And
Right.
I just need to sit here and say this. That's a lot of the people we get in, man, is like that they have a kid, they have families. They just want to make between 150 and 200K, work under 40 hours a week, which is definitely doable. Every rep who doesn't know
Not
what they're
med-device.
well, no, but if they don't know what they're doing or the division,
Yeah.
I can sit here and tell you I could have worked under 35 hours and made north of 200 where I was at. No problem. But when you don't know that world and you've been running trays for the last 5 years,
Right.
that's a lie, right? Like I got a girl right now, she's going for a position, she works way under 4 hours a day and she's over almost 200K right now for just at plan. And she's way above at plan. So she's gonna make 250 plus, right? It's just learning that opportunity. But the reason I'm just sitting here saying that is so many times I watch people demonize it. And you guys will see me, I'm a hustler. I say this all the time. I wish my ticker would just stop ticking to the fact of I'm like, yeah, I could just chill at 150, 200 a year, work under 30, 40 hours a week, have a good work-life balance. I drive to help people more.
Right.
And it's like, I knew I would not be filling my potential if I stayed at 200K at 27 years old, going from when I made 50K 2 years before that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I love growth. I love continuing to help. I love giving back and helping other people do that. But I want you guys to all know that is you'll see the people who get very comfortable, but a lot of the people who listen to this, they're like, man, I'm here to hustle. I want to grow. Why wouldn't I want to live the life I want? Why wouldn't I want to go travel and have money and be able to make different businesses and do this stuff? And this is a great opportunity. So I'm just saying that there's no right or wrong. There's going to be people, 150, 200, work under 40 hours a week. Great, go do that. Nothing wrong with it. But what people get in trouble is when they listen to Bob. When Bob lives in the suburb, he's been in for 14 years, he's married, he has 2 kids, and he works under 40 hours a week and he wants to go drink beer with his buddies on Friday night or whatever it is. And you're talking to the 26-year-old who came from nothing or is trying to make a name for themselves, and they want to make way more than 200. That's where you guys get in trouble. There's nothing wrong with either. But like, you want to learn to hustle and you want to go with it. Like, for example, mentors I learned from make $1 million a month. That's why it makes it easy when people who are making 150K a year are giving me crap.
Yeah.
There's levels, but there's nothing wrong with those people at 150K if they want to stay there. So I wanted to put that out there because I've never really gone into it. I'm not sitting here saying you need to have no life, you need to hustle, you need to keep going. Right. There's some days I wish I could be like, why can't I just shut it off and go hang out on the beach and just chill and be happy? I am pretty happy. I love what I do and I love making an impact, but like, I love working. I love making a difference. I love growing every month and watching stuff grow, but that's not for everybody. And so I think that's really what you're saying though, is like knowing you. Who are you? What's going to make you happy? Because you and I can both attest to this. And that's what I want to just put for our listeners, because there are people in the industry, but they're outside of the industries. Guys, the money's great. Money and like this impact you can have in this industry is amazing. But at the end of the day, it's just money.
I learned that hard truth this year, right? You know, I was working 14 hours a day, right? To, get to my position. I've made more than I ever thought that I would be able to in this industry. Truly, I had to check myself, right? Because you have to be honest about your motivation and really who you are.
Yep.
I let everything go to become as successful as I've been. I stopped taking care of my health, my mental, not spending as much time with my parents. Right? I'm an only child, right? Like my parents are my world, right? And it's like, oh, Sarah's busy. Oh, she's doing this. Like weekends, 14-hour work days, killing myself. It wasn't until recently where I kind of took a step back and I'm like, wow, I got so caught up in the money. And that's not who I am. And I had to take a good hard look in the mirror. Right? Because now it's really easy to get caught up in it. At what point is enough enough?
Bam.
And what are you giving up
to be there?
It's just not worth it. Right? You have to check yourself and you have to prioritize what's actually important. Right? I have to start taking care of myself again and prioritizing myself. And that's not saying I'm going to work any less hard. But I'm going to turn it off at 5:00 at night. If I'm not going to go out trying to find new business at 6:30 at night. Right? It's
anymore. Because they'll be there tomorrow at 8 a.m.
Right. So it's very much, I don't even know how we got to this, but it's humbling yourself and taking a good hard look in the mirror, because it's really easy to get caught up in the flashiness. I'm in the OR with doctors,
I'm
right?
in med device sales.
I'm a med device sales rep, right? It's like, dude, come on.
Yeah. I love that. And why we're talking this way, you guys, like why we can talk this way, the years we put into it.
Yeah.
Like me and her were talking off camera, and why we're even bringing this up right now is like, when we both got into this, we had nothing. And because of the success we have had and the difference we have made in the hours, and why we can say we can turn it off at 5. I never can. I wish I could, but like why you can,
it's a lot easier said than done.
Why you turn it off at 5 though is because of the 6-7 years that you put into this to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's what I want here, every single person, because they'll be like, yeah, that's what I want. And it's like, but did you grind for the 2 to 3 years? Like, let me just sit here and tell Kobe Bryant, you want to be the best? There is no balance. But then at some point you have to rebalance. Right. And that's what I'm big on. You have to, right? Because I realized I was in med device sales, and it's like, I hadn't taken a day off in 2 years, and I'm going as hard as I can. And then my best friend passes away. And it's like, that was like probably one of the most impactful times in my life. Because I remember driving and being like, what am I doing? I remember getting a call from a nurse and just ripping me that I've done in-services for 5 times in 5 weeks. I remember coming back the day after and being like, at 2 weeks, just reflecting on life. And I remember coming into an OR to a pissed off scrub tech, just tell me why I'm late when I was early because this case got moved up. Nobody called me. And I'm like, all right. And then she just was the rudest person. I literally was like, I'll leave right now. And then you can do it by yourself. And then she told me to F off. The GYN instructor was there. They let her, like she got put on leave and she had to go meet with people but that's who I was. And I was like, You're treating me like a certain way. I'm not this way. The reason I'm saying that's not everybody. I had the lowest performing territory in the nation. There was a lot of things in the works. But the reason I'm sitting here telling you is like, that's why you and I talked. I went to Italy and you guys watched that vlog. And it's like, that was life-changing for me because like I talk about, we live to work here. And they work to live there.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like one of those things. So that the reason I'm just sitting here telling you guys is like, go hustle, go do your things, but don't forget what really matters in life.
Yeah.
And like, I'll sit here and tell you, because people will say, Jacob, you work all the time. You know why I work all the time is because I absolutely love what I actually do though. It doesn't feel like work. I love getting calls that I just got a 22-year-old hired at $100,000. And now that person's crying because they changed their life. And they're going to go in and they're going to go change other people's lives. That's what I think it's about. It's about the impact, because again, if it was just about the money, I would have never ran the stuff I've run it how I do.
Yeah.
It would have been way differently all the time. I would have gone on 10,000 free calls before I did any of this. Right. And I think that's the big thing is I want everyone to hear as you go through this journey and stuff is like, this is just real. This is people who've been very successful. And like to some people, 170, 200 grand, that's great. To us, it was like, hey, keep going. But it's also like, we're type A people and many people are going to listen to this and be like, yep, I get it. We're all in, get it. Burn the boats. There's nothing else that matters. But just make sure one thing that you and I've talked about, and one thing I've gotten really good over the last 6 months, 12 months is I'm going to work hard, but I'm also going to make sure I have my time for me. But understand there's sprints to that, right? There's some weeks. Yeah. There's some months. You just got to put it in.
Yeah.
But like for me, like I can sit here and tell you, it's like, I got a trip planned. I'm putting it in right now. I'm on that trip. I love going to another country because then I just don't even buy the plans. And then I only get it if I'm on Wi-Fi. And then I'm like, nobody can even reach me right now, suckers. But the reason I'm just sitting here saying that is like, it's a plan, it's a time. So I just want everyone to hear that because that is the realness. Like I appreciate you sharing that because here's someone at the top and everyone's gonna be like, you gotta have more, you gotta have do this, you gotta do that. But it's like what we've talked about. That sale's gonna be there at 8:00 tomorrow if you didn't go at 6:30, right? And again, let me say this one more time, because you've put in the work, you already have the relationships. It's not like you absolutely need it. Now it's just like, how much more money are you going to make with what you're doing? Right. And we've had that talk. But where I want to really transition, because this is the big thing I want to talk to people about, is what you kind of said, and we haven't gone into much detail about this, is the W-2. But where I want to really transition, because this is the big thing I want to talk to people about, is what you kind of said, and we haven't gone into much detail about this, is the W-2 life to a 1099 and going into distributorship. Because like you said, what's a distributorship? Is it good? Is it bad? We get this all the time and we help our people with contracts and all this stuff. Because why distributorships get a bad rap is I, Jacob, can start a distributorship. I can go pick up some products and I hire Sarah and I'm like, here's products. Good luck. Go. And now that's the only way they make money. They don't get any training. They don't get any stuff. Now the only way you make money is if you actually just go sell.
Right.
But if you're not giving the success keys, like how to actually go do it. What's the training look like? What's the products? What are you going through it? How much are you doing onboarding with? Like all these different things. And then they talk about percentages. What's the percentage? What are you getting of that? Like, there's so much that goes into it. But why I want to just touch on this is because when we've talked about 20 or 23-year-olds making 20 grand a month, you know where they do it at? Distributorships. Each distributorship's going to run it different. Some are going to have quotas, but some aren't. You know, some might be like, hey, it's no quota. You just eat what you kill. But I want to just give a little knowledge to everybody, whether they are reps in the industry, because some of them are working at a J&J, Stryker, all this stuff, and they don't even know about this. But it's like, you can go work at a distributorship and eat what you kill. And if you're super hungry and motivated, like that was my thing. I went to the startup, but I literally told Elliot and Jordan, I was like, I don't want you guys to pay me unless I actually make money for you. Because I feel bad.
Right.
but then he would always like make me, he's like, dude, we know you're not going to get it right away, but we know you'll return, which I return the investment.
Right.
Eventually. But the reason I'm just saying that is like, that's how I've always been wired. I'm only going to get what I actually produce. Many of the people I have listened to this podcast will be like, no, I need a salary and I need a guarantee and all this stuff. And I'm like, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But don't sit here and tell me you want to make $30,000 a month.
Right. Yeah.
And do that. And so I just want to, can you kind of just shed why you went from W2? Because you worked at a Stryker, a Wright Medical who was acquired by Stryker, a Boston Side, the biggest companies in the world, to then be like, hey, I'm going to go to a distributorship, which let me just make this real clear. Most people, when they hear distributorships, you will never know the name of the distributorship. But then this is why I always laugh is like, I would rather work at Joe Schmo's med device company and make 50 grand a month than work at a med device company to make 150K a year. That's known. But many people that are listening and thinking about med device sales is, I need to work at Stryker or Medtronic or Johnson & Johnson so I can go tell my friends or other people that are in the industry. The last thing I'll say, and then I'll turn it over to you, is like, you know, the only people who actually care that I worked at Medtronic, the people at Medtronic or the people trying to get into Medtronic. Right. Nobody else even knew about Medtronic. Here we're talking about med device sales. It's all this stuff. Most of you guys didn't even know about medical device sales till 5 days ago.
Right.
Right. It's like, we don't even know about it. The only other person who ever knew about Medtronic when I was in the industry were 2 other people. My CPA, because she's like, oh, good job. And she had seen stuff. And people who had pacemakers from them. That's it. Everybody else, I'm like, I'm in med device sales. They're like, what's that? So the reason I'm just sitting here telling you guys that is if you come in with the ego, that's what gets a lot of people stuck. It's why they can't climb. It's why they don't drive. And they just want to like live this stuff so they can tell other people. But there are so many other opportunities and avenues in med device sales where it's like going back to, I have met guys in distributorships where they're not trying to like crush it, but they're like, dude, I work under 25 hours a week and I'm making $250 a year. And I'm like, no.
Sounds pretty good.
That don't suck. You know what I mean? So can you kind of just share your story of like, and just your experience on why'd you go from a med device, like W2 big company to like hey, I'm going to go the distributorship route?
Yeah. I mean, I think I felt like the rug was kind of pulled out from underneath me when I was W2 at a med device company. You know, acquisitions happen, layoffs happen. Your fate isn't controlled by you. Right? You're working like a dog to meet quota. The benefits of it, right? You know, have health insurance. They're paying for, you either get a car or they're paying for your gas.
All the safe stuff.
Right? That's fantastic.
Yep.
And if that's where you need to go to get in the door and wet your palate, get your feet wet, start building relationships, do it. It's wonderful, right? I'm never going to talk shit about a W2 corporate med device company. There's a lot more financial freedom that comes from a distributorship, but there's a lot more risk.
Right? Come on. But this, let me just say this real quick. That's anything in life.
Right.
More money,
100%.
More risk, more money, more problems, right? Like but let me just make sure everyone hears this. Why do entrepreneurs make way more money than everyone else in the world?
They take way more.
They took the jump to do it and they never knew if they were going to make $1 to do it.
It's so easy to look back and be like, oh, well, you know, they're super successful. You don't see the that they have to go through to get to where it's always, you know, everybody's so blinded by, oh, look at the car they drive or look at their house or look at X, Y, and Z. It's like,
every time.
They didn't just, most people that are successful don't just get it. So instead of like having hard feelings towards them or be a troll or try to tear somebody down because you can't like
you just
look yourself in the mirror, that's your problem. If you want to be like that, go humble yourself and go learn from somebody like that.
Yep.
Right? Everybody just needs to stop being so horrible to each other, honestly.
Well, but it comes from where they're at.
Right.
And they feel bad and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And like, oh yeah.
But what I would suggest is distributorships are great. Again, I've just been very, very, very blessed with my whole path that I've had in this industry. The owners of my distributorship, typically they don't pay base salaries. The fact that I got $5,000 a month was a blessing. They did reimburse my gas. Most don't. They reimbursed lunches and dinners that I did. Most don't. Right. So I took the jump to a distributorship, but it was also a little bit of a safe jump too. Right. Because I knew with the base, I knew I had enough to pay rent, you had take care of myself.
Yeah. Your base living.
Right. And they took care of the rest. It was kind of like a W-2 in a distributorship. So if you're I think there's two things is if you can find a distributor that runs their business like that.
Yes.
I would almost say just start there.
Yeah.
Don't even go the W-2 route.
No, yeah, exactly.
They're paying you enough for you to live comfortably. And they're taking care of, that's what costs the most. The gas, cold calling, driving around, the amount of lunches and dinners that you do. When you only have $5,000 coming in, you can't really afford to do that. And all these med device companies, pharmaceutical companies have kind of screwed the distributor in the sense that, hey, I'm going to go schedule a lunch to meet with this provider. Okay, great. We have 20 people that you need to feed. And now that's $350. It's like, so you can't even get a meeting unless you feed the whole office.
Exactly.
Right. So it's like, if you can find a distributor that's willing to do what my distributors did for me, screw W-2 and just go right in, right? Get ready to work.
Yes.
But go right in. Sometimes they'll even take interns. We've got an intern right now. I think he's a junior or senior at ASU. He's in the office on his off time. He's asking to take me out to lunch so that he can learn from me. He's doing ride-alongs with the OR reps. He's starting to cover cases on his own.
Crazy how successful that kid's going to be. Right.
And he's setting himself up fantastic.
Yes.
If you can't find a distributorship that doesn't reimburse like that, it's hard to, we've talked about this, is don't just take the first position that becomes available, right? You need to think a couple steps ahead, right? If you're interviewing for two positions, right? One territory manager, you don't really vibe with, he's not super happy about them bringing on an associate versus a territory manager like my first territory manager that I had. If that job paid a little less money than this one, I'm taking this one all day long. It's not going to serve me immediately. I'm not going to have I think my comp at Boston for an associate was $90K. So it was 45 base, 45 performance, which is a very healthy associate comp plan. I would have taken 65 if it was setting me up for a better future. Than the 90.
We talk about this all the time. It's learn to earn. Right. So many people, when they first come in the industry, it's like, oh, I have to make this money. Now I'll sit here and tell you, a lot of our people, we just got a 22-year-old. She signed the day before she actually walked across the stage for graduation. Her base is $70K with a 10K commission. Right. And then we got a relocation package, which we post on LinkedIn, all this stuff. Right. But the reason I'm sitting here telling you is you're 100% right. So most people are telling me, I need to make this. And it's like, great. But what about if you went and learned for a year or two from people who actually care about you? Because then you can go and make the money in your career. Because everyone tells me they want to make this career, but then they're like, I have to have this first year, right? And they have to have their dream job first job. It's like, well, it could take a year or 2 or 3 years and get you there, but that's your career. Set yourself up. But the one other thing I wanted to state on that is so many people, when they're just trying to break in the industry, it's like, oh, I'm married to a Medtronic or a J&J or a Stryker or whatever company, name whatever company, but they marry it. But they don't actually get the vibe of it. They don't actually see it because your team is what makes everything. Your team and your territory is your company. Who cares? You could have literally the best product in the world, but if your team stinks, you're not going to last a year. It'll be miserable the whole time. And so it's like, we talk about this with our people all the time. It's know your worth. right? I always make the joke, like the Jacob train has left the station. So every one of my students, I talk to them like, the Sharon train has left the station. Know that. Because when these companies want you, they will show you they want you. It's no different than dating. Like my favorite ones is when we know we did really well and all the stuff is, hey, we got another offer. Regional managers call them, please don't take the offer. HR is a little behind. Like we want you. Like they're begging our people as we have multiple offers not to do it. Compared to like, then we'll have others that like, we know they're not a top choice. And it's like, they'll ghost for a week and they'll be like, all right, you still want the job? And it's like, all right, let's bring it back to dating.
Right.
Would you want the person who's like, hey, I'll see you next week, and then doesn't ever talk to you? And they'll be like, yeah, I think I'm still into you. Or you want the person who's like open communication, telling you they validate like, hey, this is what we want. And it's just showing effort. So I just wanted to like state that because you're 100% right. And then also wanted to touch on the W-2 that has a base and all that, and the ones that commission. Here's the thing. These are like a needle in a haystack. And I say this, but once you find them, they're amazing. They are out there. You just have to be willing to look, right? And you have to go with it compared to the ones that are just like, yeah, come work for us. And they'll do 1 or 2 interviews and it's not the same. It's not. But I put that forewarning out there. It was like, just talk to a kid. Did 2 interviews. They offered him a job. The non-compete was 13 pages. The contract was half a page. Which
non-competes don't even have any merit anymore now.
Yeah, they just so you all know, if you didn't know that.
That's kind of a big thing.
Yeah, non-competes don't mean anything. It is the Wild West. People go everywhere. But no, the reason I'm just sitting here saying that is like, they had 13 pages on non-competes and then half a page on the contract for the person to sign. So I was like, where's the territory? Right. What's the training look like? That's what we help with to make sure it's an actual good fit. Right. Because then they're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, ask them this, ask them that. But like, there's that. But like you said, there's more risk, more reward. There's all this stuff. But last thing I want to say, and then I'll switch back over to you, is like, again, W-2 guys, I worked at W-2s. Loved it. If I went on my own again, I'd go 1099 and do my own stuff. Like I say this all the time. But the reason I'm just saying that, there's never a right or wrong answer. It's just where you're at. Some people want more safe. Some people want more risk. Like I'll just sit here and say, I had a guy come to our program the other day with that new to medical device sales meetup. Scrub tech. Decided to go work for a distributorship. Has been hustling. There was no guarantee, but just had his first $10,000 month. Like you're not getting that if you go work at an associate job at Stryker where they're trying to pay you $55K. And you're going to go I just talked to someone who did trauma, $55K. They're working all the time and they get $55K. This person went on a distributorship selling very similar things, putting in the same time. But the only difference is this person now made $10K. But understand, the first month almost made nothing. I think he was on a $2K base. Yeah. But he got the opportunity to go hustle and do the stuff. And then you can take the risk.
Well, he was probably smart. And this is kind of what I was going to say too. It's really hard. Obviously, you want to be selective, right? Yes. If you don't want to be on the clock 24/7, don't take a trauma role.
Preach it, girl.
Right? So it's hard to do, right? I mean, I didn't do this. If you ever asked me, like, literally when I was trying to break into this industry, I had a job opportunity to sell cannabis or be a men's health rep selling urinary sphincters and penile implants. Mm-hmm. Did I ever think I was going to be selling penile implants? No. Was my passion, I love urology and, I'm going to, do X, Y, and Z. No, I didn't even know it was a thing. Yep. Nobody has a crystal ball. But if you can find something you're interested in and passionate about, and you want a little bit of a more like risk-free model, go find an associate position calling on that specialty or whatever. Yes. Build your relationships on the W-2 dime and then go start your own distributorship. Yep. But it's difficult too, right? Because not all industries you'll have that opportunity to create a distributorship in the specialty that you're calling on.
Or work for a distributorship, right? Go work or create, but like you're 100% right. Because it's all relationship based, right? And then you can almost become like the Amazon if you would like to, or the whatever you would like, but you're 100% right. So that's what we talk to a lot of our students about is like, hey, let's go get the training and let's go learn and get paid to learn.
They're using you, so you use them, right?
Welcome to
let's just call it out for what it is.
One of our biggest sayings in our course, right? I've said it since day one in our course. They use you, you use them.
Have you really?
Right? Oh, I said it all the time, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm driving all the time, having no training, got ghosted from field sales trainer. I'm getting yelled at to go hit quota, all the stuff. I'm driving down to Tucson. I'm going 80 and I'm like, I'm working all the time. And I was like, if I went over and just went into the ditch and died, they'd refill me. Right, in 3 weeks later, they would refill me. Right. And so ever since that day, that was when it hit me. And I'm like, Great. And that's what we teach people. And again, like, I just want you all to know, because like med device companies will watch this and all this stuff. It's not like, it is business.
Yeah.
Like for any CEO that would be like, that's uncalled for. You just made millions.
Billions.
Yeah. Like, this is why I just always laugh, because it's always like, it's the money hungry stuff, all these things. But it's like, yeah, we teach our team to do this because we've talked about it. If you stay at the same place 2 or 3 years on average, if you jumped every 2 to 3 years, you're gonna make 50% more in your lifetime. Why? Because you go competitive pay. Why? I've lived it. Went top performer. I've done it multiple times. Top performer, grew the territories from nothing to a lot. And then they go, what? Oh, we're going to double your quota. And then, oh, guess what? You'll make an extra $4,000 or we'll pay you no extra. Okay. So I'm going to do double the amount of work and you might give me a $4,000 raise. I can go sneeze and I'll go grab water bottles and sell water bottles on the side to make more than $4,000. Right. So like, that's the thing of like knowing your worth, going into it. It's not mean, but it's like, just understand it. But let me just sit here and tell you, that's when you believe in yourself enough to do that.
Right.
I knew, like, for example, when people are like, oh, 150, 200 grand, whatever, I'm like, okay, I'll just go do that today. Literally today, I can go make 250.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Right. It's just knowing that worth in your stuff. But yeah, to your point, that's what we talk to our program about a lot of times. If you can get to a distributorship, get that opportunity and go, awesome. But a lot of times, go work at a big W-2, go big company that's going to pay for you to train you and do all this stuff. Because let me just make this real clear. You worked at a W-2, crushed it, made them $9 million, and then they didn't even give you your shot for a TM.
Yeah.
So like you went on your part, and that's what I always tell people. I always will get the return on investment for me. When someone pays me, I'm like, I'm going to make them their money back plus a lot more.
Right.
Once I do that, as long as it's a great place, I'll stay. Right. But like after I've returned the money, I've done what my job at the side was, and they did it to me. When I leave with all the companies I've ever left from, I can go and put my head on the pillow and be like, I did it.
Right.
I returned
exactly.
I returned my investment. It wasn't like I went there, screwed them, took their money and said, peace out. I went, higher performer, delivered on them, did the best in the company for them. Number 1 at Medtronic on my team, number 8 in the nation, like Innovis top performer. Like I performed. I can leave and know that I gave it all.
Right.
And I don't got to stay another 20 years to know my value, that I'm good.
Yeah.
And that's, I want to share that to somebody, because I think that's a big piece to this.
Yeah, it's true. I think, and again, it just goes back to what's important to you, right?
Yep.
If you want to make $400,000 a year, you're not going to do it by staying typically at the same company. Now you can work your way up, right? Yep. Associate, TM, maybe work your way up to a regional manager, VP. Like you're either going to make more money by growing within the company.
Yes.
You're not going to make more money by being a sales rep at that same company for 20 years. You're just not anymore.
No,
right?
the only time I've seen it is when they've been there for like 15, 20 years.
It's all the old people that are still sales reps.
Yeah.
No offense.
And they just, oh no, it's 100% because they decided not to go be managers because they're like, I know I can work two things. I can work way less because I already have the relationships built that I know they're going to use me. So it doesn't actually, because I'll make less if I go be a regional manager. Or they're like, yeah, they have a relationship and it's like this, like you watch it, my 15-year vets, they'll have 1 year they made $600K.
And that's it.
Yeah, because they have the relationships that year it came and then they just use all the relationships and go. But then like we talk to them. I know people that are 50, 55, if they're still reps, they get pushed out because they know they're going to start paying insurance and they're going to do stuff. And like, oh, we can go get a younger person. We're paying you as a senior $285 and we can go hire somebody at $185, save $100,000. We're only going to lose this much on the business. And we actually know it's still a better profit move.
Right. But now that these non-competes are no longer,
it's going to be an interesting world.
It's going to be interesting, right? Because now you have the opportunity to use your experience
and relationships.
These med device companies, that's what I was just going to say, they pay for your relationships, right? So if you're kind of getting screwed, you're a top performer, and then they increase your quota based. So if your quota is, let's just say $100,000, and you do $150,000, guess what they're basing your new quota on? $150,000, right? And you're like, well, hang on, wait a second. How does that make any sense? So now what am I trying to say? They're using your growth success as your new benchmark to make them more money, which your commission is going to change, right? Because they're not paying you more to grow the territory more. No. So what you have to do is go leave that company and basically go to another competitive company and be like, hey, I can bring you X amount of business, but here's my number.
Yep.
and you'll get it.
And that's what I'm going to say. It's going to be interesting in the W-2 space.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting.
Because it used to be that way already in the distributorship world. Right. Like I've watched distributorship worlds of like, I can bring you $500 or $1 million of business today. So they'll put a rep on first year, $400,000 salary.
Right.
And they're like, yeah. And then they know they're going to get transfer and then it goes commission after that. Right. Like I've watched that in the distributor. I've never seen in the W-2 because like those big companies will come at you. Yeah. Like they have legal teams.
Oh yeah. So they're suing the shit out of you.
Yeah. They'll come sue you. So like, it's going to be interesting how this world plays out. So, but that is, again, these people are getting so much value. They didn't even know this world of med device sales existed.
might not be that bad.
Yeah. They're like, holy crap, moly. But no, I absolutely love this. And the thing I really wanted to just dive in and end with is like, Sarah, you've had success, you've climbed this, and like, again, you guys, I know who's watching this is falling in love. Like you have so much variety to you, you're so knowledgeable at what you do, but like, what's your advice to like the people who are trying to break into the industry? And then I'll ask you to, what's the advice to like the people in the industry already? So let's start with, what's your advice to people trying to break into medical device sales?
Man, I think it's a fine balance of knowing your worth and what you can bring to the table, but also taking, again, that hard look in the mirror. I feel like nowadays society has been, we can get things so easily and immediately. It's that immediate gratification that society now thrives off of. Yep. Right. And I'm going to take this a little bit to another level, right? It's, you don't deserve, nobody owes you anything.
Yep.
And you need to honestly, like, you need to know that you're not going to make it in this. You're not going to make it as a successful associate if you have an ego, right? When you're
the grunt
interviewing, you have to humble yourself, and you have to you have to be hungry to learn and know. You have to celebrate the fact that you're not the smartest person in the room. It's actually an incredible blessing for you to be the least experienced. I'm not going to say dumbest because that's harsh. The least experienced person in the room. That's a blessing. Yeah. That's not a bad thing.
No.
Right. So you have to shift your mindset.
Come on.
I think.
Yes.
And money's great, but it's really what's important to you for your long-term success.
Yes.
Listen to advice, right? You and I aren't sitting here because, we're trying to sound superior or anything like that. We genuinely want to help. I've screwed things up. Right?
We all have. That's why we give the experience. That's why we do this podcast even exist.
Right.
All the mistakes I've made and the people we've had.
So you don't make those.
Exactly.
Right? Don't prioritize your mental and physical health for money. Don't do it. Yep. It's not worth it.
Yep.
Right. So, humble yourself and be willing to absorb the knowledge. People don't always communicate the best, right? Yep. So don't let it rile you up.
And everyone's different.
Everyone's different.
I say K to you, you're like, all right. I say K to someone else, and they're like, huh.
My God, what did I do?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's it. Work hard. Listen to advice and coaching from people that have been there.
Yeah.
And also just know your worth, because you're going to be told, you need experience, you need this, you need that.
Yep.
You get what you work for.
100%. And one thing I want to just add to that, because you're so right, please go listen to that again, you guys. But like the intangibles is what you said earlier. Yeah. And like as somebody who gets people hired every single day with no sales experience, like I literally we're having conversations with med device companies, as I've talked to you about, and it's fun. And like one of the CEOs I talked to, I was like, yeah, I just got a 22-year-old hired with no experience. And she's like, what? This is CEO of a med device company. Yeah. And she's like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, we do it.
Right.
Because it's like, what I've just been able to continue to flip this industry and all the recruiting and all this stuff on its head is, who cares about your background? Who cares about whatever? My best people I watch are like the door-to-door salespeople who don't, that's D to B or D to D, not B to B. Like those are the best. They've got cussed at, police called on them, yelled at, they hustled. Usually it's hot or it's rainy and stuff. And the grit, it's the things you can't teach. And as long as you're hungry, you're willing to be coachable. That's the biggest thing. Are you listening? Are you willing to work hard, and are you coachable?
Right.
Can you take the feedback and like understanding, guys, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. That's why they love athletes so much. You want to know what the number one thing that's guaranteed when you play sports is you're not getting coddled.
Right.
Like someone screws up, you get screamed at, and then you get put on the bench, or there's consequences for your actions. Right. Shocker.
Go run.
Or it's like everybody on the line, and then guess what? You run, and then the person who made you get on the line, they're going to hear about it. Right. And that's just life. And I think that's why I love it. The participation trophies can get thrown off the wall for all I care. But the reason I'm just sitting here saying that is that's why you and I get along so well, is coming from literally nothing and coming from like not everywhere. Like I sit here and say this all the time. One of the biggest things I see is like when I see the people coming expecting, they've been coddled their whole life, all this stuff. I want this. And I'm like, you're just going to lose. That's why I want every single person that's listening to this right now, if you make under $50,000, if you came from nothing, if you had to put groceries back, if you did, you are going to win. You literally will just win if you just keep with it and keep growing and keep learning, because you have something that nobody can ever take from you. And it's the hustle. And it's why I sit here and tell you guys, like, I love it. Like we talked about this, but like I took her up to the roof and got to see where we're at now. It's like, I remember putting groceries back 6 years ago. And it's why whenever I meet anybody who has a name or all this stuff, like you always be respectful. But that's why, like, hope you guys know, every time I meet a rep who's like, I got 15 years experience, and they try to tell me what to do, I'm like, I don't care if you have 100 years experience. I don't care. I'm where you're at in 3 years and took you 15. Now there's ego to it. There's always going to be ego. We're in sales. Now, can you humble yourself and still learn? Because I'll sit here and tell you, you want to know why I've been able to get to where it took people 15 years and I did it under 3? For the last when I was there for 4 years, I always took feedback. I took every note. I took coachable. And then this is the biggest thing. You know how many people I know take notes and then they don't do anything with it? I actually put it into play. You want to know why we've been able to build multiple businesses? Because I listen to podcasts, I pay for coaches, I do this stuff, and then I implement. And then guess what happens? I screw up. And then I don't just die and be like, oh my God, I'm the worst rep ever, or whatever it is. Poor me. It's okay. Suck there. Let's get better tomorrow. And that's one thing when you said that earlier in the show, is like, it is the intangibles. It is that piece that you guys have to have a chip on your shoulder to know that you're meant for more. I don't care where you're at. Like, you have to know that this life can get better, because the only reason you guys are listening to this as a kid from small town Iowa, all this stuff is like, I just kept believing, what if it does go right? When everyone else is focusing on what if it goes wrong.
Right.
They're on fear. What if it all goes right? What if it does happen? What if everything that you've dreamed about does go? Because you're sitting in the spot right now, you never thought you'd be here.
Yeah.
I never thought we'd be here talking beautiful place, being able to help others for free. Like, it's amazing. But then that's why we do what we do, is because I've learned the most with mentorships and going. I always say, poor people will look at something and say, poor people and rich people, the difference between them is poor people will ask how much, rich people ask what's my investment. A poor person will never pay $1,000 because it's too much money. A rich person will happily pay 10 grand if they can make 10 grand. Once I realized that, and this is why I put this out there, hopefully this just changes someone's life by this saying. Once I realized that, it changed my whole life, because it's why I've paid thousands and thousands of dollars to get mentors who then just saved me years and years and years and money. Because what people don't understand is you're going to try to go figure it out on your own, and you're losing money every time you're not doing it. And you usually waste money trying something that didn't work, when I can just go talk to somebody and be like, do this. And they're like, no, already tried it. And that's the one thing, like when you say the intangibles, that's one thing I'm huge on, is like, can you just be hardworking? Can you be coachable? Can you be like willing to be growth and actually be able to take the coaching and implement it?
Yeah.
If you can do those things, guys, I don't care if it's med device sales. I don't care what it is in your life. You will be extremely successful.
Right. And kind of too, this just came to me while you were talking, and it kind of leads into those in their first year.
Yeah.
It's all who you surround yourself with, right? You're talking about your mentors and everything like that. You have to surround yourself with good people, right? Because it doesn't mean anything, right? If you're making $250 and you like hate the people that you're surrounded by or that you work for, and they just like suck the life out of you, no amount of money is worth it. Like, dealing with that energy of those people, things like that, it's not worth it. You have to surround yourself with people who are uplifting, right? Aren't gonna, there's value to be learned in screw ups. You're gonna screw up.
Guaranteed.
Right? You're
1,000%.
You're gonna screw up, just, foot in your mouth, just terrible. You're gonna do something. You're gonna feel,
you're gonna get checked.
So small.
You're gonna mess up.
But there's always something to be learned in those moments. And you need to surround yourself with people that they're going to coach you and they're going to tell you screwed up. But it's got to be from like a place of like I'm just going to say love,
I was
right?
just going to say, they love you. They care about you.
Right. So it's like, I would rather ride through the desert in an Arizona day with the 2 or 3 people that are my ride or dies than, be on a beach in paradise somewhere with 100 people. That's what I always say. I keep my circle really small, right? I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies, right? And you have to find...
clip that one.
You have to find your quarters.
Yeah. That is so good. And you're 100% right. When you say like love and the care, and it truly is. And that's what I like. That's what's been so cool about this and why I love giving these podcasts. It's like, we've just made a community of people, and know who doesn't like this? Not top performers.
Right.
Average ass people hate me. And one thing I just want to put this out there. I had a mentor teach me this. Define who your haters are. When you get any success, you do anything. Let me just sit here and tell you, if you're young in the industry and you're having more success, there's going to be reps that hate you and managers that hate you because you're doing more. I've had people call me and be like, oh, a manager's calling on you to check in how the guy with no experience is doing. I've had people be like, oh, this manager talked a lot of crap about you. And I'm like, I've never met them. Don't know who they are. But the thing I always say, and here's a little piece for you all for a little comeback, is I don't know their name, but they sure know mine.
Right.
But the reason I'm sitting here telling you, you have to define who your haters are, because if you want to do anything in this world and make an impact and have it, there's going to be people who hate you. And so like for me, I always sit here and say the people who do not like me and probably don't like us are people who are average, who don't want to get better, who just want to fly through life by the seam of their pants and wonder what if.
Which is fine if you want to do that, just don't be a dick about it.
Yeah, but that's it. But like then but that's what they do. They feel insecure and like they just won't put in the work and all this stuff. And so that's what I would just sit here and tell you is like, let me just sit here and say it is fun for me to sit here with you today. And it's like knowing that where you helped me get to and where we're at today together, it's like, oh, shocker, guys. Like the people I continue to bring on this show every single week that we have are only top performers. And they're somehow my friends. Because what happens when you have other people, you align with them, you attract to them, you want that. And it's like what we always talk about is like, you said it right there, but I joke around being a kid from Iowa now. Energy is everything. Energy is literally everything. And that's not me going all hippie or all this, but it's like, I truly will sit here and tell you, you want to know what's changed my life in the last 12 months where I made more money, I had more happiness, I had more freedom, I had everything, is where I focus my time. Because if you focus on the negativity or the positivity, you'll get either one. Mm-hmm. If you focus on the positive, put you around people who tell you what can. That's what I love about my community and what we do at our program in New Medical Device Sales is all I sit there and tell our people is what they're worth and how much they can succeed. Why every single other person on the internet is telling them why they suck and why they won't ever get it. Why their parents, why their family members, why other people. You want to know why? Because I go through it.
Right.
I've been through it. My family can't understand when we're doing the success that we've had and like, they just don't get it. So I'm sitting here telling you guys, it's why I do what I do. Right. I absolutely love it. It's like when you can just give back and just put hope into the world, put hope into just giving value. Because I'll sit here and tell you what we went into. There's been reps that have been in for 10, 15 years. They would never talk to you about this because they don't even know it.
Right.
It's when you just want to give back and you want to give value, that's what this is all about. And so that's why I would just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us and just be able to share with our listeners, because I know we're going to be able to chop this in a million different pieces and just be like, oh my gosh, we could make 18 podcasts just off of this one episode because we went into so much detail. And it's just you being really good at what you do, being knowledgeable and just being open to sharing, because we all come from this place of abundance. Yeah. Because we know by these people winning, we're not losing. Yeah. We can all win.
Just I guess to wrap it up, I mean, you get what you put out, right? If you're one of those people that's poor me, or, you're hating on the success of other people, like you're just going to keep receiving negativity and it's just going to fester.
And you're going to have a poor life because you're going to keep having crap that comes up because you're in that mindset and you attract it.
So you have to shift your mindset to love, positivity, uplifting people, because guess what? If I'm having the worst day, what makes me feel the best is doing something nice for somebody else. And I know ultimately it's going to come back. Right. So it's like, if you're struggling or whatever you're going through, like it's bigger than just breaking into med device.
Come on.
Right. Just treat people with respect. If somebody tells you you're not good enough or you're not going to break in, hey, thanks for the feedback. I appreciate it. Like, best of luck to you. And go where you're being steered.
Bam. And don't try to prove yourself. This is the biggest thing we talk about in our program. And you can attest to this, but it's the same thing in med device sales. Stop chasing for validation. I bring it back into dating all the time. You know what? Most people are in bad relationships or they do it. They're searching validation. We live in a performance based. We're in sales, for God's sake, right? Like this is performance based, right? But then we put our value in it, right? And then we go through that process. And so that's one of the biggest things I teach people is like, you don't need to do that. Like what I love about my program is it's maturity.
Yeah.
We're just maturing people, not for only med device sales, but for life. But what people don't understand is if you're not mature as a person and as life, you can't make $300,000,
right?
Because you got a $50,000 mindset. You got to mature into that position. And so like, that's my biggest thing for everybody listening is don't try to prove people wrong because what happens is, and let me just sit here, when somebody says you'll never break in and then you try to argue with them, you ask for their advice first off. But second off, it's like, now you're not saying that because of all that. Think back. Why are you saying that? How many times have you been put down? How many people told you weren't good enough? How many, you dive deep into that thing. This is where the real talk goes. And that's a whole other podcast we could go. We won't even go into it, but I just want to share that for people is like, it's the validation of this. Just know you're enough. There's nothing else that you can do in your life to know that you're enough. But there is stuff for confidence, right? All I just tell people, everyone will say you're confident. And I always just say this and I'm gonna say it one more time. Confidence is just the promises you kept to yourself.
Ooh, I like that.
When you were tired and you told yourself you were going to read 10 pages, you read the 10 pages. When you told yourself you're going to wake up at 4:30, even though you wake up and you want to hit the snooze alarm, you get up. It's just doing it time and time over again, because that's why when I can sit here and say, Jacob, why are you so confident? Because for the last 7 years, I've kept every promise to myself. Now, I say every promise. Yeah, there's been times I skip and whatever it is. But like, I keep most promises to myself. When I say I'm going to do it, like yesterday, long day. But I told myself I had to do 4 things. Eric, my videographer, and I are on the phone for 38 minutes trying to figure out because the platform we upload our podcast on is messed up. That wasn't in the plans, but guess what? It had to get done yesterday. So the reason I'm just sitting here and telling you guys is like, when you tell yourself you want more confidence, if you struggle with self-confidence, you say you're going to go work out. You say you're going to go for a walk, go for a walk. You say you're going to read a book, read for a book. But why people are so unconfident, why I watch people who struggle with so many things and it goes into the mental health and the physical activity and all this stuff, is they say they're going to do it and then they don't. I'm going to eat clean, then they smash a burger from In-N-Out. I'm going to work out, they don't work out. I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep, they're up at 1 o'clock in the morning on their phone. It's the little things in life that are going to actually impact your day to day. And like Austin on our last podcast talked about, he says, work more on yourself than you do your job.
You have to love yourself.
Yep.
You have to. That's a harsh. I learned that this year, right? I mean, literally this year, I learned that it's you have to love yourself more than anything else. And that's not saying you're not prioritizing anything in like other things or anything like that, but how hard you work and the things you're trying to achieve, you have to love yourself more.
Yep. Because here's the whole thing, guys. The reason we just went on that, you're like, this has nothing to do with med device sales. It literally has everything to do with med device sales and your career.
Yeah.
Because you will never be able to go to that next level if you don't get to that point. Because I'll sit here and tell you, that's why I sit here and laugh is when I'm beating out all these people who were former professional athletes and all this stuff. And the ego's there and they want to tell me why I suck and all these things. It's like, why have I been able to advance and make way more than they ever will? It's not about the ego portion of it. It's also, I've been willing to do the hard work. And what I mean by that is the hard work is the work on yourself. Most people will never do that and they will overcompensate with cars, money, houses, trips, everything, social media, all the stuff. But when you can get to yourself and you say, I'm good, watch what happens for your life.
I got chills. Literally, it's so true, right? It's like I bought my dream car in December. Great tax write-off, right? One of the reasons why I did it.
Preach it.
But I bought my dream car. Ask me how much I drive that car. I drove my old car here. I drive my old car every single day.
Don't want to put miles on it.
What I thought was going to give me validation. And, you know, it's like you go up to business dinners at these valets, at these steakhouses, and my, you know, Mazda 6 that's got dents all over and, you know, thing beat out the front of the bumper. It's a little embarrassing, right? I roll up now in my dream car. Oh, now this person has some status. It's like, why is that important? Right? Now I bought my dream car in December. I'm literally considering selling it. It just doesn't bring, any, it just doesn't matter.
It's because of the insignificance of what we're trying to prove, all the stuff. There's a lot that it goes into it, but like I'm sitting here, do the same thing, right? And like you always go through it. But that's why you guys, I hope this was such an eye-opening. It's not just only med device sales, but like I've told you guys from the day I started, it's always about just providing value to your life. My whole goal is just so you guys continue to live your dreams, go after the goals you want, go after everything you want, and actually make a difference in your life. So Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for the episode. Thank you for just sharing and being so open. And it's been amazing to watch your success, and can't wait to watch you continue to crush it.
Right back at you.
Thanks
for having me.
Yeah. And if you guys are watching and listening, if you can press that like and subscribe button, a 5-star review helps us grow this channel. If you can share this with somebody that you feel like it would be helpful for, it would mean the absolute world. And like I said, whether it's med device sales or even outside med device sales, we're here just to help you guys have value. If you guys are really interested in breaking into medical device sales, please feel free to reach out to me at Jacob McLaughlin or New to Medical Device Sales, where our average person is breaking in 8.2 weeks at $94,478 currently. You can press the link in below and we can definitely help you out. But I always love chatting with you, see how we can help you. And then the cool thing is with first year in is we also made this for reps that are first year in their industry, but we're helping associates go to full line reps and make over 150 plus when they're coming in as full line reps. We've also helped full line reps go to other full line rep roles to continue to help them. We're all about just giving back and helping you guys grow, because you'll get told you can be an associate. It has to be 2 or 3 years. We've helped them do it in 8 months. We've helped associates go from making 60K to over 180K in their first job. So the reason I'm just saying that, if you guys are interested, please feel free to reach out. But I hope you all know, I just continue to love seeing you guys win. I appreciate the love and support, and I will see you on the next one. Until then, keep crushing it and keep hitting quota. Peace.